Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never say never stop. As we shout from the top, we're gonna be two hearts running wild. Now the morning is the afternoon. We lay awake in bed. The laughs so loud as the hours pass. We're gonna do it all again. We wanna chase night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Sleep never stop as we shout from love. We're gonna be, we're gonna be 200 wild.
Hello, hello. Now I'm realizing I should probably check. Yeah, I do have audio. I should have audio. Hello, hello. Good afternoon. It is 2:03 p.m. here in Central Europe, and it is 2 minutes past. Well, 3 minutes past now, I guess. 7 a.m. in the morning in U.S. Central Time. Good morning, Rudy. I hope you're doing well this morning. I generally do. Um, yeah, so I'm here to hang out with you for a bit of crochet time. I have my tea with me, and it is a loose tea blend. It's the Droomvlucht, which translates to dream flight. It has some strawberry leaves, classic black tea. It has some saffron. Um, I do believe both sunflower and cornflower petal, dried sunflower, cornflower petals as well, and so on. So it's a bit of a sweet yet fresh tea. Not fresh as in lemon fresh, but yeah, it has some sweetness to the freshness somehow. And what the plan is basically to work on the Ultimate Sacrifice shawl. I started on this last week, Friday evening, to have it prepared to go to my trip to Germany. So I had something to crochet on in the car. That said, I think it is important to say that I didn't crochet all the time there in the car because I had to drive some of it. I drove about half the time, I guess. And I did get some work done. I got some basics done. I was ready, and I kind of like got the color change done before I went to the car, and we are gonna proceed on that actually today, because that is just where we are at. I do believe we're at a stage where we're about to start increasing, because I have reached the fan section. You have seen a little bit on the what's it called, a thumbnail. On the thumbnail before you pressed it on the live, there's a little thumbnail showing this starting piece. And the reason for me doing this is, of course, because I had yarn left over from the GingerTea Cowl, and I had exactly 2 skeins of this exact yarn. And I didn't want to stuff the rest of the remaining skein into the stash of my scrap yarn stash, or pile, whatever we should call it. I'd rather want to use it up now before I forget about it. I also notice I do have an end I need to weave in. Wonderful. But since I did have some left, so what I did was I took, because I had worked from the old skein from the inside out, and I had all the outside left, which is the dark piece. So I took the old skein, the used skein outside, where I did the center of this, and then I started on the center on the new skein. This is where we are at. So we are pretty close to a color change, as you can see. This is the Hobbii Azalear, which is the colorway 6, called Royal Command. It's 52% cotton, 48% acrylic, 200 grams, so that's 7 ounces to 800 meters or 874 yards. I estimate I had approximately 150 to 180-ish meters left of the old cake. So that's like somewhere between, let's say, 180 to 200 yards. And I still have left because I didn't use all of it here. So the rest of it I rolled up into balls. This is what's left of the last color. And then we have the other color changing sections here. So what I will do once we get to those sections on this shawl is I will cut the yarn, add those in before doing the next color change. So it increases the size of the shawl. Yeah, and then if I will have land left, it's just gonna be like a little bit of the dark color on the last row or something like that. Generally, we're going to make a really nice big sized scarf slash shawl here. So and I have less in my scrap stash, which is the goal here, right? Hello, Suzanne. Good morning to you. Wonderful to see you with us. Hope it's a great morning at your end. So let's see, what I should do, of course, is to flip you guys around. So let's do the dual camera view, and we will pop down. And now the question is if this is too dark for you guys, but it's maybe not too bad because it's actually, I see my screen is also a bit funky, so I might need to redo this a little bit. So let's see, I am at 1, 2, 3, 4 rows in. So this is indeed where I need to start increase. I do not remember outside of my head which I do remember how to increase. I just don't remember how many stitches to do the increase of. So I am just opening up the pattern to help remind me. So one moment and we will see what the purpose is. It is slightly slow here on my computer. It's overworking when I'm streaming. Susan says, coffee, crochet, and cat on my lap, purring heavily or loudly. Yeah, well, wonderful. Sounds like good morning, though, right? Like I'm on the tea instead of the coffee, but you know, coffee or tea, that's cool. I'm not in any means saying what not. But what I do say is me and coffee does not do well together, but that leaves a lot more coffee for you guys. That's also what I tell my partner all of the time. Okay, so in the increase, we do 14 increases before reverting to the regular. As from I read. I just need to make sure I understand this correct. Don't two double crochets in the next one, double crochet in each of the next 13. No, it's still the same. Because this is not Row 18, shell rows is where we are at. I need to read the right part of the pattern. I'm like, I don't understand this, but that's because I was literally 6 rows earlier or something like that. 19 is what I've done. 20, 21, 22. From here on, every 4th row will be an increase. Yes, I know that. Now, then the real question is, how many? 12. 12. I need stitch markers. Hello, Revenant. I hope you're having a great day as well. Generally hope everybody has a great day. Stitch markers. Stitch markers. Let's do some counting before we start crocheting, because then I have less counting to do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That would be my last one. So we'll insert the stitch marker in the last one. And on the other side, we also need 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is it really only 12? Must be. I am good. Finished my coffee and I'm nearly done with my granny square. Doing Taurus colors for my wife's zodiac sign as a part of the crochet challenge. Oh, that sounds nice. That does indeed sound nice. Taurus colors for the wife's zodiac sign. I never thought about zodiac signs as colors, to be honest. But we could do a fun little one. So what is everybody's zodiac sign here? I'm at Capricorn. So I'm born in January, for those that's curious. So my birthday is in January. Capricorn is my zodiac sign. 2 rounds of each of white, neon green, and ivy green. I love greens. I would have done this green if it wasn't because I had the blue planned. And we had actually a draw, like a random draw which colors to use, because I couldn't decide because both of them looked so damn nice. And the draw ended up choosing the Royal Command, so this blue color. Okay, so let's see. I just need to one double crochet in the next stitch, skip. I do believe that's not skip. It should be the same actually. So first of all, we do start the rows of this with a stacked single crochet, 2 stacked single crochets to replace the double crochet. So let's start by just starting the round here, and then we need to skip a stitch, and then we'll do a double crochet, and then we do the 2 double crochets, chain 2 to double the crochets in those spacings. So the increase is actually quite simple. I just need to make sure I really counted. That's just, I have the feeling it's always more, but apparently it's just 12, because it says make double crochet in the next step, skip the next 2 steps times 12, which means there are 12 in total. So yeah, there are 12, and I counted 12, so we should basically be good to go from here on. Revenant says Leo is my birthday, so actually, so the zodiac sign is Leo, and Friday is your birthday, so congratulations on Friday. Whoa, I hope. Do you have anything planned, or just gonna spend some time with a wife, or like any special plans? celebration this weekend with family or something like that. My birthday is way too far out in the future. I haven't even considered what I'll do this year. Last year, we had plans that ended up getting changed. Um, the plans were for my parents to come and visit us here in the Netherlands. But those plans kinda got cancelled because my mom was not feeling very well. That was before we knew what was the issue. And seeing how bad she's been, I've been rather happy that they didn't even try going here, but just came to the conclusion that there wasn't it wasn't wise, it wasn't energy to do that travel, to undergo that travel, because it is a long drive. There is, I believe, 800, 960, 8 to 900 kilometers home. And if you're not feeling very well, it feels like forever. Um, and you'd rather just be home if you aren't feeling very well in any case, right? So that got postponed. Maybe we'll do something this year. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Hanging out with a wife, but we also have reservation at a Brazilian steakhouse, so that will be fun. Oh, that sounds nice. Oh, yummy, yummy. I could do a good steakhouse. Most definitely. I am sure you will have a great day. It sounds really good. Family is mostly 1,500 miles back east, so I'll get a phone call. I can relate. I can relate. I either do phone calls or I get a message being like, "We think of you. Happy birthday." Unless something else is planned. My dad still feels really, really bad about them not coming this year for my birthday, and I've tried to explain to my dad that he shouldn't worry about it because, the health of my mom is so much more important. And it's just another day in the year when it's my birthday. Was a little bit more special this year because, I got a 0 on the end, but in that sense, not super special because, it's just another day. And my partner took good care of me, and my mom-in-law were by, and I do believe we went out for dinner. So it wasn't bad. Jay says, "Good morning, everyone. It's 8:17 a.m. here, which makes you Eastern time. Here it is at 2 p.m. to something p.m. to 19 to be exact right now. So I'm just cracking along here on this Ultimate Sacrifice shawl. The benefit is, as I said, I do know the pattern pretty well. I just had to do a little bit of counting there. But from here on out, I don't really need to even look at the pattern. I can just crank out the rows. I'm using a 3.5mm crochet hook for those that's curious. And hopefully that means that I can get another cake finished in August. That said, I am not bringing this project with me to Denmark because I'm leaving coming weekend, but I'm doing a center pull here. And since my crochet kit, due to my limited amount of hand luggage, needs to be packed down as not carry-on, but as check-in luggage, I don't want to risk that getting squashed, and therefore totally yarn bathed, especially not because it's multiple strands. I'll rather not even consider. Susan says, "Hey Jay, and we are having the weather now for New Jersey in the US, and it is partly cloudy with a temperature of 71 degrees Fahrenheit. So 22 degrees Celsius. Wind is blowing from east-northeast at 7 miles per hour. Current humidity is 90. One would say it had just been raining with that humidity. I do believe it's getting good weather here actually. Yesterday was windy. But it's sunny here. Howdy to Michelle from Texas. It's 7:19 a.m. here in the morning. And she says she loves V-Star's shawl. They stay in my shoulders a lot better. Yeah, they do. That is another thing. I think it's because, they kind of comfort your neck and so on. That is what I assume, at least. Elena Smile says, hello, Stina. I am so glad to be back finally. You are very welcome back. It is wonderful to see you here. Meanwhile, I can tell you the local weather for me, well, about, let's say, 5 miles further up, is partly cloudy with a temperature of 71 degrees Fahrenheit or 22 degrees Celsius. So, temperature-wise, we are the same as in New Jersey right now. The wind is blowing from west at 10 miles per hour and the current humidity is 46. Yep, we did not have any rain yesterday. Oh, well, we did, but that was like maybe 5 minutes. It is, though, sometimes a bit windy. It's a bit less windy today than yesterday. So, looking on it's this past week has been a bit, like sunny, windy, and then it rains a little bit, and then it's sunny again, and then it's windy. So a little bit autumn-like. Which I hope is not yet already autumn. I could use another month of summer, a month and a half even would be nice, but that is not very realistic. But a month and I would be really happy. That's without being greedy. 1 month would be perfect. Would I get 1 month is a big question. And we do have a new member here on this channel. So I should go ahead and play this one for you, Revenant. Thank you so much for your support. That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome to my members. I hope you have a great time. You have access to one of the fancy emojis, or two. I should actually get some more made. And yeah, early access to other things. Great to see you. And let's jump back to the crochet bit here. Yeah, just like autumn, exactly. It's been a bit autumn-like the last couple of days. If anyone would feel like getting autumn, they are more than welcome to come and say hello. But yeah, so I'm actually pretty happy that I started this shawl. It's, they turn out great, beautiful. And, the fact that I'm not stuffing the rest of the yarn from when I made the GingerTea Cowl into my yarn scrap stash. It's making me really happy. So therefore, it just was the perfect choice for my next shawl. It's not always that I make these dark centers. They look great with and they look great without. But in this case, it was definitely possible to do it. And as I say, just before some of you joined, I still have some of the yarns left. These are what I have left from that cake that I used, where the very dark one, this is the center. So I worked the center up on this yarn, plus this is what I have left, which is definitely more than some of these color changes. So I will add these color changes to the cake when I get to them. Like before they change color, I will make sure that these also gets worked in. to increase the size of this the scarf or shawl, sorry. So that should get a really, really decent size. I've made the ultimate sacrifice before, both in an 800-meter cake from, I do believe it's a Dahlia Halloweens from Hobbii, but I've also made it once in a yarn art rose garden, 100% cotton, 1,000 meters. Mm, 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 mm. So Ronan says weather here in central Texas is 75 to 24, going up to 95 to 73 with 5 kilometers per hour wind. So a bit of a chill in the air for this time of the year. Going to need to bust out the sweaters. When you say 95 in the afternoon, I'm like, my goodness, that is warm. I actually have a sweater on today, but that's more because I don't know why. I think it's the wind in the air that makes it feel a bit chillier. This weekend, they're actually promising us to go up to the 80s again. So there will be more summer. Though that said, on the day where we will get the highest temperature is my travel day. That's on Sunday. I will be traveling on Sunday. And I need to find some projects to bring with me. I am probably gonna just bring some cottons and maybe go for bucket hats or something like that. Is my current thoughts. That is currently what's on my mind, maybe for doing that. So I just removed a stitch marker, which means that was the last of these increases. And then we are back to just doing the normal all the way till we reach the next stitch marker, which is when we start to increase again on the other side. And I do have a nice... So the yarn is in a crate, which is just standing next to me at a half decent height, so I can easily pull the yarn, by the way. Nightbot says invalid location. It's because you could just type weather and then city, zip code, state, whichever you want, and it would pop up the weather, usually for the right location. August here is usually closer to 110, 43 degrees, so I'll take 95. Yeah, that definitely sounds a lot chillier, but art summer, a lot more rain than normal. Yes, I heard, because here in the news, we've definitely had news about these crazy rainstorms Texas have had with, it's, yeah, kind of been disastrous, right? With people dying and so on, because the rivers haven't been able to handle the excess water. So we've heard about the floods and so on due to the thunderstorms, which is just no more than a couple of weeks ago, I believe. In Denmark, they've also had crazy weather. They've really had a lot of rain in July. One day in July, some places had more than the amount of rain they get in 1 month, but they got it in 1 day. Obviously, the systems as well are unable to handle that because it's more rain than the general. So the infrastructure is just not built for it. That's definitely also caused some havoc. The flooding was mostly to the east, and I'm in Vaco, so there's not been much flooding here, despite both a river and a lake in town. Oh, but that's nice for you guys. I live between 2 rivers here in the Netherlands. I live between de Waal, which is a river that springs out of the Rhine. The Rhine comes in from Germany. The other river is the Rhine. I live basically maybe, I don't know, what would that be, 10 miles away from where they split. And I'm always told if the dam breaks and the water is high, run to the attic because it's going to get wet. We are luckily not that close to the dike here. We do have a bit, so the likelihood that um, that it will get really wet at my place is maybe less likely than um, if I were living a bit closer to the river. I probably have a mile to the river or so. But we really had some years where it's been extremely dry, but we also, a couple of years ago, they did had excess water coming down in the Alps and in Germany, a lot of rain, and that caused the river to definitely do some destructions here and there, and people had water in the backyards, among things. It's definitely okay to suggest crochet patterns. Absolutely. You're both welcome to suggest and ask for suggestions. We are consider this live as one thing is that I sit and crochet with you guys and you can see me crocheting. It's yeah, it's just like if you had a crochet and social coffee chat with your friends down at the cafe or something like that. Um, it's not like maybe I know things and I can teach you guys things, and maybe you guys know things and can teach me some things. There is in that sense no limitations. That said, the chat may not allow you to share links. So if it's a pattern, you will probably need to tell me the pattern name and I can go look for it on, let's say, like Ravelry, if it's to be found on Ravelry and the like. Um, so yeah, it's a social chatter. Um, you might want to check out the Summer Petals by Joanne the Yarn Addict. It's a great summer early fall light wrap shawl. It's on YouTube and Ravelry. I should go check out that indeed. I actually didn't know that he had put his patterns on Ravelry now. I do know he's made some tutorials on YouTube. I love him for his constant great spirits. He seems like a genuinely happy guy, um, which is just quite wonderful to me actually. Um, who doesn't love a good spirit? So yeah, I like him. I just don't always have the time to watch a lot of crochet channels because I'm also next to this, I'm working and I've been busy setting up my web shop. So there will be news on that hopefully soon. That, by the way, is something that's really been taking quite some of the time. And I'm okay with that. It's things that does need to get done, if that makes sense. Because I have come to the conclusion that I have too many finished makes in my stash, and I don't have enough people to give them away to. And I make what I feel like, and I need to clear out the room because I only have so much room in my house. And I want to give people the opportunity to pick up handmade works for a reasonable price. And I want to make space, and I can use the proceeds to, well, let's say buy yarn or whatever I figure out. So yeah, that's been a work in progress as well. Juan is one of my favorites. Yeah, he's a nice guy. I really like his spirits. It's just quite nice. It's actually his crochet challenge I'm working on. Ah, nice. I have a few designs in my mind I really need to work on as well. Um, and then we will see how it all goes from there. I do have small issues with, like, I started preparing for the web shop and everything like that, but I can feel that the rules in the US are a little bit discussing with the de minimis and so on. For exports, you guys will have to start, like, they will remove them, which means that if I would sell to the US, there would come a 15% tariff on top, which is due to this angry yellow-haired guy. who's not realizing that removing de minimis, or at least he should. I can understand maybe wanting to decrease the level of them, but what this is gonna do, sorry, this is a bit politics and not so much crochet, but what these changes are gonna do is, point one, we have the people, regular people we're talking about, the regular consumers are paying for this. The companies are already paying for their imports. This is an added fee to the small consumers. So for Mr. and Mrs. America, so to say, and not for the companies, which do have definitely more money than the regular people. And also, the administration will end up having so much more costs for administrating the fact that they have to send out those bills and charge that extra tariffs. It's just a fucking nightmare for you guys, but it's actually gonna cost the government more money, I think, to do this than it's gonna net them. The administration of this is gonna cost them more money, and that's also why, like, even here in the Netherlands, there is a de minimis level, depending on, but generally there is, which is, I do believe, at 120 euros. It kind of depends on which country, but like 120 euros. Which is totally crazy, right? Ramanan says, I apologize for the current rogue government in my country. Well, I just hope they change their mind again, because seen with in economical eyes, I do have a degree in marketing and economics. I'm thinking it's not the most logic choice. It is changing consumer and buyer behavior is probably what they mainly want. But it's also going to hurt the small regular people, because in the end, the prices have to increase. So the companies who will have to pay regardless for whichever they import to do their products or create their products, which might still be fully American created, they will have to increase their prices as well, because their cost of supply is just increased by X%, right? Elena Smiles says, sounds so wonderful. A place to sell crochet. That's my dream. At the moment, I am borrowing a spot at a local hair salon, a small sort of arrangement with the owner. That's nice, though. I'm trying to start my own business. Maybe you'll see me someday online. Maybe, who knows? I do have a business already, not with crochet, but it's something that I only do on agreements, etc. But I can use the business number and everything from there related to this. And then if this takes off, I will likely set that up as a different business. But I'm also realizing the amount of time it takes for me to prepare and to do things, etc. It's not something you need to do for a great income. I am not going to calculate my hourly salary on this, because that is heartbreaking. But I like the idea if it can help pay for my yarn supplies and maybe make a tiny bit of profit or whatever. Allows me maybe to give something back to the community. And of course, it's also my emergency solution in the event that I do not get a contract extension on my current job. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we do need to do the increases now. Ta-ta. And just one moment, just inserting that first stitch of the increase, and I'll catch up on chat. But that's just so I don't forget that I am in the increases. So, good morning from Arkansas in the Americas. Hello. I hope you had a great night. Mama knows best, Gwen. Gwen, I hope you had a great night and a great morning. Don't forget to hydrate. I grabbed some tea, which is still slightly a bit on the warm end for me to drink it, so I'm just gonna let it cool a little bit longer. And my most favorite tea mug. Well, it's technically saying coffee on the outside, but I use it for tea. And it's great because it's anti-spill and all that stuff, which is yeah, perfect if you know how clumsy I can be. And I really genuinely mean that. I can be clumsy without intending to be clumsy. But yeah, so here I'm just cracking on, and yeah, we're having out. Hope you all having a great day. Have some great projects to work on, and we will see where it all ends. Elena says, oh, what kind of tea do you like? I love so many types. Well, this is what I'm drinking right now is a loose tea blend. There is a local tea store in the city of Nijmegen where I sometimes go pick up some loose tea blends. Else, I generally black tea. I do very, very rarely, occasionally drink a green tea, but green tea is not my biggest favorite. But I do have a single green tea which I like actually. It has infused with orange and mandarin flavors. And you know, the fun thing is, I started drinking it without knowing it was a green tea, and then I'm not sure if I would have drank it before if I would have known it was a green tea, but it was actually quite nice. So it does leave me a little bit open to the green teas, but they have to be kind of like fresh in taste. Um, I don't do iced teas. I don't like that. Teas needs to be warm. I do drink my tea the English way. That means with a hint of milk in my tea. And I happily do an Earl Grey, Russian Earl Greys. I do. So the loose tea blend here I have is a black tea with it has strawberry petals in it, dry strawberry petal leaves, and cornflowers, sunflowers, saffrons. So it has a few different things to treat your taste buds. I also have a Chinese tea, which is a bit of an Earl Grey tea, but it has rose petals in it, which kind of makes it a bit more flowery, slightly sweet scented. Fruit teas, especially like black teas infused with a fruity flavor, lemon teas, etc. I'm not super on herbal teas, and I don't do. You will not make me happy with what they called rooibos tea. So the South African teas. It's not something. The smell is just not like it. Kind of makes me nauseous. But I do drink a lot of tea, especially at my old job. Tea was kind of my go-to nemesis, and I think I probably drank a liter of tea a day. And we tend as people to drink way too little compared to what we need. So this is just me saying to you, if you haven't hydrated yet today, do get your hydration. And if it's coffee and you already finished your first cup, do pour in your second. That green tea sounds delicious with citrus. I love black tea as well. Milk and honey goes well for me. And the blend you have right now is amazing. It does. Revenant says, my wife loves tea, so I recently got her a nice teacup and saucer. It's a part of the Dead Regency collection at Michael's, so it has roses and a skeleton on top. And a top hat and a suit on it. Very gothic horror. And very, very relevant for the season coming up here very shortly, right? Because it's like Halloween in just a couple of months. 2.5 months to go. Halloween. Knock, knock, knock. but this, my friends, is it's a Tefal. Tefal is like a German brand. It has this kind of like there's this thingy on top. I kind of like open and close it. And it has this rubbery thing to help not burn your fingers. And obviously it says coffee and all that other things on the side, but I use it for tea. And I think it's like $25 maybe on Amazon. $30. I got this as a birthday present from my partner. Um, and that has probably been the best gift he ever gave me. Like, who cares about perfumes and jewelry when you can get an absolutely amazing thermos mug to have your most beloved tea in? So me and that mug has been going on strong and solid for the last 3.5 years, I think. And I actually just got myself an extra, not for home, but to bring with me to Denmark because I am there quite a lot. And I've come to the conclusion I don't drink as much tea when I am in Denmark because it goes cold too quickly because I just have a regular mug. It's not like keeping the warmth in. So I decided to buy one, and I did, and it came today, and I'm bringing it with me. I am bringing it with me to my parents' place. And I'll leave it behind so it will remain there for all my future tea needs. And I definitely need it because I will be working as well. It's not a vacation. So I will need it for my job. So I do have a constant something to drink. I remember a few years ago I had a guest over, and an effort to make them feel comfortable, I offered them tea or coffee. So they looked at me and said, "What's tea?" So I was like so shocked. Um, um, yeah, there are people who's not as familiar with tea. I'm probably shocked when we could call him my husband, but we aren't married, but we've lived together so long that we could just as well be married. Um, I like if I say, "Do you do you want tea?" He would be like, "No." But I once had a cinnamon tea he actually liked, and I was kind of shocked when he said he wanted a cup of it. Um, because he usually just does coffee. He's a coffee guy, which is fair enough. I'm fine with that. Gothic horror, Edgar Allan Poe, that kind of stuff is very much our style. I actually have a rather large tattoo of a raven on a skull on my forearm. Ah, I had a feeling that you're a little bit like Revenant is kind of telling me a little bit like Gothic horror in its name. Um, so I wouldn't say I'm totally surprised about it actually. I've been debating on getting a tattoo. I just haven't gotten around it, mainly because I want it to be perfect, and it needs to be perfect also, no matter if I gain weight or lose weight or how old I get. And I don't know yet where to place it. It's not going to be a big one. It's just like, you know, like size wise. What would that be? I'm just going to grab my tape measurement. Probably like, I don't know, 1 by 2 inches or something like that at best. Because I am, as some of you may know, a former Olympian, and I still haven't gotten my Olympic rings tattooed, which I kind of feel I should. And yeah, but I've been adamant to do it because, the perfect placing. It needs to be a place where it's discreet in case of you doing business, and it needs to be a place where it's yet still to be seen in the sense of. So I'm slightly undetermined, but I may need to option for the wrist, like here or something like that. And then I'm a little bit not too happy with needles. That's also what's been holding me back. And then finding the perfect place to set it, like it needs to be good. So I'll need to do reviews and all that stuff. I do not have any tattoo currently, and I know that my partner is not keen on tattoos, but he will understand my need to get this particular one. We are almost done with this first round. Do the thing. I waited until I was in my 40s worrying about it being perfect, and now I have 3, and I'm far less worried about it. Yeah. That's also one of the reasons, like, you know, why this store of mine has been delayed. Because I wanted it to be perfect, quote unquote. But, you know, it will be a perfect as we grow together. I think. That is my conclusion for that. And I'm fine with it. Yeah. To come in August. Follow the channel if you aren't doing it. More to come. I think let's stick it like that. Yeah. I'm, by the way, just placing stitch markers in the top stitch of those stacked single crochets, plus in the tip here to kind of help me remind where they are. It just makes it a little bit simpler for me. So I don't need them for following the pattern as such, but I do them for my own memory, to keep it a bit simpler for that bit. So we need another 3 rows now, with the 3 here in each of the shells before we then do the next increase. So we need to skip 4 because we did the increase in the actual increase in the previous row. Yeah. Do not let the perfect be the enemy of good. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist in so many aspects, and that is sometimes how can I say it? It's both my friend and it's my enemy. And the reason I say it like this is because my perfectionism has definitely caused me to be able to excel as well as I have in my sport. But at the same time, it also has me holding back on other things. Yet, like when I learned Dutch in the beginning, I was holding back, and then I realized if I really wanted to get better at learning Dutch, I need to not be afraid of making mistakes, and I should just do it. So at some stage I started just doing it, because that would be the easiest and quickest way to basically to learn. And that is what I would still say as of today, that when people are learning a new language, holding back because they're afraid of making mistakes, also even when the basics are hello, my name is when it will take longer to learn a language. So if you want to learn something, you generally just need to jump into it and not be afraid of making mistakes. The same goes for crochet, for that matter, or knitting, or whatnot. Which reminds me, I've almost finished my 3-stranded knit hat. Maybe I'll be able to finish it later today, or definitely tomorrow. Which is so super soft. And now we already have the increases, so I know kind of where to end these. So that's a good thing. Do need to increase at the bottom of this one. I also think we will have definitely a color change at some stage. We should almost have, should actually get like a rainbow emoji for color change. That would be cool. Oh, as we're talking about it, I just pulled up the color change. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can. But the color change is right there. In a couple of meters, we will have the color change coming. So yeah, I guess I think that's a general thing, that people want to make sure it's good and perfect and all that stuff. But I've just come to realize that, you know, and a part of the perfect is also me wanting to have everything ready to go of all the items I've crafted. But the amount of time it's gonna take to take photos and get them uploaded and get the photos set correctly and write the descriptions and all that stuff is insane. So I've actually come to the conclusion that I am likely going to launch it with a few items, and then I will just add as we go. That is what it's going to be. And I'm fine with that. I've come to the acceptance. And here the color change is coming up. You can see it's right here on my finger. It's just a few stitches before going to the regular stitches, but that's fine. And here we have it, color change complete. It is a slightly bit darker blue, and yeah, you should be able to see it in a few. On the project itself, you can definitely see there is maybe, I think I can, but I'm not sure if it's showing on camera. There you go. As you can see, the change here is very slight, subtle, but it's there. It's there. And that is also one of the things that makes this yarn so gorgeous. Like, it's not only just soft, but it's really, like, it's quite a pleasure to work with. I do have more of this particular yarn also upstairs. But yeah. Now the clock is 3 p.m. here in Central Europe, which gives us about another 2 hours to hang out together in. I've been back to doing fitness for about 2 weeks, going reasonably regularly also to the fitness center, wanting to do something good for my body, I can definitely feel it's a change needing to be done. But I can also feel in my mind that we are progressing, um, especially in the cardio aspect. I do seem to pick it up slowly, being able to add a little bit extra time, which is really nice as well. So that is something positive. Um, this crocheting bit goes reasonably quick because when we are not at the top shells, all of the stitches are worked into the chain space, and that makes it a little bit quicker because I don't need to try to aim for the right stitches with the crochet hook. It is also, to some extent, it may feel tedious without being tedious, because it's very much the same and the same and the same. But yeah, so we had the first color change. So the thing is, with this specific yarn, the color changes does go smooth, but they do come somewhat rapidly, in the sense of that I think, you know, how can I compare it? You know, this is the size of a color change. After, like, after you've finished the very light in this case, or the very dark, the color changes are only like this long, which is probably somewhere between 50 and 80 meters. I'm not exactly sure of the exact length because, well, obviously I didn't measure them. But they are all equal sized. And I did simply wrap them up, and I cut them every time they had a color change. So that is why I know. That was, by the way, a bit tedious to roll them up into different colorways. Because those lengths were way too small to put them on the yarn winder. And it was something that just had to get done. I do, though, need some of this yarn to sew on some buttons on the cowl. And I think, depending on how work goes tomorrow, I will try to see if I can get the buttons made tomorrow afternoon. So I can get them sewn on. But that requires me to block the cowl, which I haven't done yet either. But ideally, because then I know exactly how much yarn I need for that, which would be cool if I can use this yarn to do. And of course I can. Why wouldn't I be able to do that? I just need, oh, no spaces here. So we are heading to the center. This is the increase tip. Oh, in this row we increase on the bottom tip. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets should give us the increase if I do remember correct. And now let's see if I did repeat myself too many times. So you basically do a whole cluster here where I've done the first 2, and this is going to be the last 2 regular double crochets, and you get this sort of fan split concept where you have the 2 fans on the sides plus you have the center tip. As I say, I just like to insert my stitch marker. It's more like I know when I get there, but I need to pay less attention because the stitch marker is there. It's like, hey, I'm here. Remember? You need to do something else here. So that's kind of why I keep it. Next row is not an increase. That is just like working in the 2 double crochets, chain 2 double crochets into that space. And then the following row is another increase. So every second row you increase on the tip. And every 4 rows you increase on the top fans. That is the concept here of the ultimate sacrifice, which is just such a gorgeous pattern if you ask me. We've definitely worked on another ultimate sacrifice before this year. So this would be the second I make this year and the third in total. I can imagine that this, unless I find the perfect receiver, is probably going to end up on my web store as well for sale. I do have a few things where I'm like, yeah, that could be a good receiver. So like that could be good presents or something like that. And then that is something I will do, give away presents. But it needs to, like, you know, if I don't have anyone on top of my mind, then it's probably just going to get sold. I can't use all the scarves myself. I wish I could, but the reality tells me I cannot. The real question will be if this is going to be too big to block in one go, which probably is going to be the case. Because last time I made it with an 800 meter cake, it just fit about on top of my blocking boards. So I may need to block this one twice in the sense of I'll stretch it down the center and I'll block one half, and then I'll stretch it down the center and block the other half. That is probably how it's going to end up getting blocked. And that's a combination of needing more floor space and needing more blocking mats. I do have a limitation of both. And finished with my square 9-inch, so about 24 centimeters square with 4 color changes ends woven in. Took about an hour with chatting. I edged with 2 rounds of black single crochets for all my squares. Nice. So black single crochets around all your squares, and then you join them as well. Do you crochet them together, or will you sew them together with a mattress stitch or something like that? I like the black outlinings of things. Or white for that matter. But I do like the black can really make colors pop, right? Like especially because I do believe you talked about them being some really rather radiant greens. Then I think it's perfect with a black outline. Had to go sit by my bright light to do the end so I could see. I can relate to that in the evening. I actually recently is not that recent, it's probably more like half a year ago now. I have an LED light which is chargeable by USB, so it's like really portable. but it's really nice because like it's quite bright if I want to have it locally. So I don't need to like I can move it with me. I don't need to move for it, if that makes sense. It does need charging though. It's probably getting out of battery. Not really sure where it is. Upstairs, I think. Because not so long ago we did have a family barbecue here in the house and I cleaned up. And then what happens is over time, all my things tend to all come down here again, and then I need to clean it up, and then it goes all upstairs. Then it comes down again slowly, which I'm used to. You're probably going to crochet them together. I'm going to go with a single crochet chain one join. Sounds like a plan. Also, if you have the crochet one, single crochet edges, I think that would be nice. I use a USB light at my computer desk. Nice to have. Yes, I'm quite happy with it actually. And it does hold battery for a reasonable amount of time. Um, need to, yeah, it's upstairs somewhere. I don't need it right now, so it's not like a big concern. And then we finish the regular ones because here are the increases. So we will continue following that pattern. So that is 3 double crochets of each side of the chain 2 instead of the 2. Where the first 2 double crochets are in the chain space, and then the last one in that stitch next. We'll skip 4 and we'll repeat. So that takes a tiny bit longer because there's more stitches plus of each of these shells, 2 of them I need to aim for the stitch, so to say. It does go somewhat smooth, but the alteration. I am still very curious on how this final result will come and look like. And of course the blog version. Dun, dun. And hopefully it's gonna be as gorgeous as I have imagined. The pattern looks very pretty so far. Thank you. The Ultimate Sacrifice is an insanely gorgeous pattern in my optics. There are so many ways to do it. Like I could have done the center, gone from dark to bright or bright to dark, and not had this rapid change. But basically, the centerpiece is gonna be, once I'm done, the outer edge is gonna be the same color, so it has this sort of gradient. What would it be called? It's like not hallucent, translucent, maybe. I don't know. Feeling you get from it. And it is like it does look almost black, but it's like a very much a navy blue. The last shawl I made was mostly solid double crochets with a row of windows every 6 row. Wife loves it in the mornings as a wrap for when she's having her coffee, not as heavy as a rope. That makes really good sense. Can recommend these kind of like pointy shawls because like what I do believe it was Michelle that mentioned it earlier. They kind of tend to hang nicer on the shoulders, like they stay up easier. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4. This was a 6-sided shawl, so it wraps nicely. Oh, that sounds cool. Own pattern, or like, do you know a pattern somewhere which I'll probably need to put my nose into? I will admit that. Oh, that's too quick, Listina. 2 rounds too quickly. John shawl for all pattern. Ah, okay. Cool. I really need to check out John's shawl patterns more. I really should. One, two. We are getting closer to the end of this row. It works up rather quickly. What weight yarn did you use for it? Like DK weight, Aran weight, worsted? Worsted works up with any yarn weight, even better. I really have some yarns in my stash where I have so many cakes, and I generally enjoy making shawls. So I do have a list of shawl patterns that I need to work up one day. Current Jumbo Umber in blush and blue. Yep, no Karens very close to me though. I do have some Karen Simply Soft. That's probably the, and I do also have a Karen cake somewhere else, which I got as a gift. Um, do, do, do. Almost done with this row, which leaves us 2 more rows of this repeat to our next increase, which definitely will happen during this live, unless unexpected things happen. I thought I would have to tell you at the start of the live that I may eventually have to quickly run for picking up the parcels when the postal guy would come. But guess what? He came before I went live. And I didn't really expect that. So row complete, and what we're going to do now is stack those two single crochets. That is, just need to find the yarns and get them in the right height, like that. Prepare for the first few stitches after, and we'll insert my stitch marker again. So, but yeah, so like I have so many favorited patterns on Ravelry for the purpose of eventually buying the patterns and doing the shawls, but they are just sitting there favorized, um, waiting for me to find the time to do the shawl. Plus, I want to make the heart collector shawl, and I have all of the yarns for it, and I have all of the plans for it, but I need to kind of just make a move on it. I had at some stage thought I would have done it this summer, but that, my friends, was before I got my new job. Because life doesn't pay for itself. And I can tell you that my bank account have found it a rather expensive spring and summer so far. And that is definitely due to all the extra travels to help out my family. And I was inches away from getting yarn, like buying yarn a week ago. Like, really. And I was like, I want this. I want this. This would be awesome. And I managed to convince myself not to get it because the yarn is likely for sale again in a month or so. With the shawl for all pattern, it is recommended to hook up a bit for some drape. So I use a 6mm. Okay, cool. Normally you would use a 5. Since not being familiar with the current jumbo ombre yarns, that's why I'm asking. Like, I know how it looks like, but you know, I haven't had it in my hands. I think it's 5.5. Yeah, okay. And then it also depends on your tension, I guess, a bit. Like if you're a loose or a tight crocheter. I'm a bit of the tighter type. Now that sounded funny. So my tension, I need to upsize the hook usually. So this yarn, I do believe, let's just have a look. This yarn calls for 2.5 to 3.5mm crochet hook. Actually, it now says 3.5 to 4. Anyhow, I'm working it with a 3.5. It was the other pattern I made that recommended 3mm, and I used the 3.5, and I liked how it worked up in the 3.5. So this works up nicely. But I generally tend to need to, like, if I need to follow a gauge of something, I often need to upsize the hook a bit. Because, I don't know, I have a tight tension. Not intentionally, it just happens. So yeah, so I usually end up having to upsize the hook a bit. It's the general rule of thumb for me. So if it says use a 4mm hook with this yarn to get X amount of double crochets on X amount of stitches, for that length, I'll be like, nope, that's too small or too big, and I will need to change hook. And usually it's to a bigger hook. Very seldom have I had to downsize. Of course, unless you're doing amigurumi, that is when I do downsize. I don't do a lot of amigurumi though, but I do have a few items. And I actually do have the pattern, should have the pattern for like a bat. And I should make that for Halloween. I do believe last year I made a ghost, which I liked the outcome of. I could consider making a second ghost. But yeah, I feel that I am a little bit lucky right now. Is that really the case? Everything seems not smooth. Amigurumi are very cool, but I just don't enjoy making them. Yep, I can relate. Well, I wouldn't say I don't enjoy making them. It depends on the amigurumi. Just sometimes it's a bit too much sewing. But of course, that is possible to fix as well. Like you'll just do the low sew, no sew patterns. I collect all my scraps in a plastic bag. Actually, I have it just over here. All my yarnins. These are my most recent yarnins, like from this year. And that is great for filling an amigurumi. It feels like a waste to throw them out. So that's why I have them. And it's a bit of a memory lane thing. Oh yeah, I made this with that. Plus, it was actually an amigurumi that got me back into crocheting. Many years ago. Well, not many years ago. It's 3 years, a bit more than 3 years ago. It was like, a do-it-yourself Easter chicken crochet amigurumi kit. And I realized actually that crochet was a perfect activity to combine with my work at the time, with my old job, because I sometimes had hours at work where I had to be present. I had to be ready to pick up the phone doing customer service, but sometimes we had half an hour where there was like nothing happening. And my boss wouldn't complain if we did other things during those hours, because as long as we were ready to pick up the phone if it rang and all of the emails had been answered and all that stuff, he basically didn't care. And that was perfect because I needed some entertainment, because it is rather boring having absolutely nothing to do at work, but you need to be present and you can't leave the computer. So I basically started crocheting at work. And some of those days were really good, when there was like almost nothing to do. Like I could get some real dents done on a shawl or something like that because I was just checking along. But that being said, I actually don't miss the job because it got rather stressful, and the management eventually got very much micromanagement alike. to say it at least. And I didn't like that. So let's see. We are heading out from to the regular ones. So these are just the 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in each space. It is more of habit, given I've made a total of 3 amis and I have a massive bag of polyfill already. Had the polyfill since it's good for aquarium filters. I had never considered polyfill for aquarium filters. You could probably also use yarn scraps for aquarium filters. Why not? I did used to. Oh, I know what's gone wrong here. I know why we have stream issues. It's my network that decided to pop out and my shoulder gave a crack. This should hopefully fix some of it. I used to have an aquarium, but that ended before I started crocheting. Actually, that ended even before I got my old job. I did have an aquarium with tropical fish. I had a little handful of corridor panda with some neons, blue neons, and a pair of breeding dwarf cichlids of the Cacatoides, if that says you anything. So I did once have an aquarium. That's a while ago. And at some stage, I think the conclusion were that it took more effort than the time I had available at the time to keep it nice. So we ended up closing it down. It was mainly mine. And I sold everything I had related to it. And would I say that I miss it today? I wouldn't say that I miss it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But the reality is just that I don't have time for it, and it did make noise. That said, every time I do pass by a pet store and I see the aquariums, I always have a look because I am curious, and I do like fishes. I do have my moments where I can just sit and look at it. But yeah, it just requires more from me than I am practically able of giving. Polyfill is really good for polishing the water. I used to have 3 aquariums, but I reduced it to 1 to lessen the amount of maintenance. Was a lot of work keeping up with 3. That's the thing, maintenance. To keep a nice aquarium, it really does take time, right? And that was bottom line. Like the filter made a noise, like a constant humming noise, and yeah, it did. Yeah, it was just not nice to listen to. It got more and more present, I guess. But yeah, except that, I think like I did have good times. definitely. The breeding pair I had, the female was rather aggressive. So sometimes the male got his fair share of the punishes. And I didn't have an extra aquarium to transfer him to for when she had young. Yeah, that was the main issue, I think. And some algae. And I'm definitely not missing the maintenance time. But what it was really good for when I did water changes, I would take the water from the aquarium. I wouldn't throw it out. I would use it to water my houseplants, and then I would just refill with whatever was needed. And that was really great. Of course, my houseplants loved it. um, so I'll be inclined to say that my houseplants wouldn't mind me getting an aquarium again. I would personally probably mind based on the time needed for the maintenance. Oh, no, 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 no. I need to be careful here because the yarn is tangling up. It's almost bathing on itself, so give me a moment like this. I would have not been really happy if that had happened. But yes, 3 aquariums, that is definitely a lot of work. I really enjoy, so there is one of these aquarium stores in the city next door, and they have some really nice scaped aquariums. Like they have one big one standing in the store, and I'm like, oh my goodness. But the work connected to it is just too much. Too much. So I've just accepted that it's not for me. I used to have a small aquarium when I was living in the student house, which wound up okay actually. And then when I had to move, I also had to clear out the aquarium, and I moved the aquarium home to my parents to keep it stored there. And you know what? My dad thought I didn't need it anymore, so he just threw it away, like as in he threw it on the landfill, which panicked me totally because, like, why would you even throw it on the landfill? It's a very valid, good working aquarium. That was a waste of money. Like, I could at least have sold it if you really wanted to get rid of it. Yeah. That made me sad when I realized, but that's like 15 years ago, if not longer. Yep. Good morning, Lisa. Great to see you. Hope you had a great evening or great night and that your morning is going well as well. I am back to another Ultimate Sacrifice shawl. As we talked about when I was finishing up the GingerTea Cowl, it would make absolutely great sense to use the leftover cake to extend the second cake I had of the Hobbii Azalear. And that is what I've done. I started by using the outside, what I had left of the other cake after finishing GingerTea Cowl, which I created the center here with. I still had more yarn left, and that yarn I winded up into balls, and those balls are sitting here ready to be added as the color changes allow for them. Right now we are not there yet, but I have 4 balls. I did cut them each individually, so I know exactly which of what. And yeah, we will be able to increase the length. And this is how far we are into the cake right now. It's still removable from my crate. Megan says the colors are so pretty. Thank you very much. I would be happy to agree with you. I still need to block the GingerTea Cowl. It's been pending, which is gonna happen either tonight or tomorrow. Ideally tonight, because that gives me enough time to kind of finalize the whole project for Friday. But there's a few other things I think is more important, so I am not so sure if I'll get it done. But in that event, I could also consider blocking it and then leaving it blocked in my guest room when I'm in Denmark. Has a week to block then. Yeah, not sure. Need to consider. Need to consider. That is pending. That decision is pending. I will. What I will do is after this live, of course, I'll have some dinner, or I'll prepare for dinner, and then I will change my clothes and go to the fitness center because that is my plan. And then when I get home, if it's not too dark, I will get it blocked. And then hopefully I will have time tomorrow to get the buttons crafted and get those sewn on. That is a dream goal. But what I've learned with the Azalear yarns here is that the starter color and the end color is a lot longer than the actual color changes. So it starts with this light blue and it goes let's see if I can actually get it. Just gonna pop it up here on the screen. Let's see if it's actually gonna allow for it. It does. Ta-ta! So what you can see is this outer edge, this darker blue, is longer than the color transitions between the colors, as well as the center blue is also longer. So I think the center blue and the outer edge is probably equally long lengthwise, where all the color changes in between are shorter. I haven't measured, but the reason for thinking this, I will show you just in a minute. But yeah, this is the Hobbii Azalear yarn that I'm using. Lots of gorgeous colors here to choose between. Currently not on sale, so it is an expensive one. But if we pop back here, and I'm just shortly putting in a stitch marker just so I do not forget or unravel by accident. The center here, I already used from the cake I had in use. I had not started yet on that outside color, so this is the darkest color in the cake, the very outer edge. And this is what I still have left of that cake. So to compare, this and this is all of this on another cake, right? And then each color afterwards, as the color change, are these balls. And I had just started on, see, I think it's this one. I do believe it's this one. Yes. This is the smallest of them, the shortest of them, the most blue, one would say. So this is how they would go. Then this has a bit lighter blue. This has 2 strands of light blue, 2 strands of the very dark navy, and this is 3 strands, right? So you can see these two, they're almost identical size. These two are more or less identical size, but this is bigger. Plus, from this, I already also made all of this. And I think the same goes with the blue, because the color change first kind of like came all the way here. So this is like this whole stretch until here is the same color. So the center and the end are longer than the actual practical color changes of this yarn. For those being curious, where were I? There I were, and I was going this direction. And because I had so much left, so much, but I did have probably less than 200 meters likely, but more than 150, I think. I decided it was a great idea to add to the Ultimate Sacrifice shawl and make that instead of putting it in my scrap stash. And the best part of it is obviously that I don't need to add anything to my scrap stash once it's done, because I will have another finished project. Hallelujah. Plus, I will finish up a cake yarn this month. Which is good for the yarn consumption. And we do have a second color change coming up. We already had one today. Actually, that happened just around here. So I can tell you with these color changes right now that they go so fast that I didn't even reach to finish a row. There we learned that. But here's the color change with the 2. So we have 2 bit darker blues and the 2 light blues, where we before then had 3 strands of light blue and 1 strand of slightly darker blue. And I trust the yarn knots, factory yarn knots. So I'm just leaving them nicely stay there. But yeah, so I'm surprised that we reached a change color before getting all the way back actually. And yet maybe not. But it does tell me that the gradient change of this yarn is quicker than all of the others, because it's not like it's that big now there that I need to do miles and miles and miles of it to get a row done. It's just the color gradient. There's more color gradients in the changes, and the changes come a bit quicker. I would probably personally have liked if they had been more all equally divided, I think. But yeah. There are web stores where you can buy the yarns and kind of like design your own cakes, or they allow you to send requests. So I could always consider for future version maybe to get an amount of it loose, or get the desired inner color from the center, or just make it one big but from the outside end. And you can always ask them maybe to like flip them, so what they have in center is to put it on the out edge if you wanted to, and have it on a yarn holder. Right now, obviously, working this from a yarn holder would have been easier than pulling the yarn, but I do pull it because I do the center pull from this cake, so it's just in a crate next to me. But here, I think it's actually visible. It should be visible. Well, maybe not too much, but I should just again before I do too much messing around. So here we have the color change in the row below, and where is it? Here it happens on the way back, right? So here I'll work that direction and the color changes, but before I get back and cross that same point, it's already color changed again. The good thing is, of course, it is going darker and darker and darker. Revenant says, I'm working on a Halloween blanket using Kirschner's Halloween Sparkle yarn in the colorway Witch's Brew. It is about 50% lightish purple and then black, neon green, dark green in equal lengths. Rather short color changes. Okay. Sounds nice though. So I'm not sure if I would consider these short or long color changes. I would say compare it to other yarns I've worked with of equal length. These seem, so the first and the last color are long, but the actual color changes in between are shorter. That is my end conclusion here. I still have the GingerTea Cowl laying not so far from here. If you kind of want to see what I mean by it. But I think it's a gorgeous pattern as well. I definitely need to block it because it did shrink during my front post, back posts of the double crochets. So it just needs to get stretched back into shape. When I had upsized the hook from a 3mm to a 3.5mm, the gauge matched by, I was 0.5 centimeter short on 85 centimeters. So that is so little. Sorry, that I considered it wasn't an issue and shouldn't be an issue. Yeah, those front post, back post, it make it shrink a little. So yeah, that is also one of the reasons I need it blocked. And the picots needs to get stretched into the right position. Lisa, no need to apologize. She says sorry, she had a phone call, but no need to apologize for phone calls. Even I could have had a phone call. I didn't though. What I probably need to do is I need to take a short break when we get to the end of this row, because I decided an hour before I went live, as a dessert to my lunch, to have a quart of a watermelon, which means that is a lot of liquids, and that is wanting to get out again. So I probably need to consider a very short 2-minute break, because looking at the time, I don't think I will last for the full hour until the end of the stream, that is. And then I'd rather just use the little house before then, instead of sitting trying to hold on it, which is, by the way, also not healthy for your bladder. Is what the quick, clever people say. We're almost there. Yeah, laugh. That's the case, right? If I decide to consume a quart of a watermelon, of course it needs to get out eventually. And that is now about 3 hours ago, a bit more than 3 hours ago. And given the fact of the logics, I'm not really surprised this happens. And I'm okay with it. It's just admitting to the natural things. Waiting for yarn delivery today. Hallelujah. I'm feeling the pain for all the Americans, people that's been ordering yarns from Turkey or from Pleta. They're all gonna have to pay more for the yarns with the new tariffs. Watermelon is delicious, definitely. So I'm just gonna quickly be right back. It's gonna be, I think, maximum 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 if it takes longer. But I'll be back with you in just a few, and we will continue with the following row.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young and it's just begun as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild. So loud as the hours pass, we're gonna do it all again. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be. We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
Thank you. That was, to say the least, a relief. Thank God I live in Kuwait, Jana says. And yeah, I would say thank God too for the tariffs. You don't have that issue. Lisa says, I live in Canada, but this order is coming from Little Knits. So far, no tariffs on yarn. No, thank God. I know the US will have tariffs for imports out of the EU starting on, I do believe it's 29th of August. But still seems somewhat uncertain as to how it will be handled. Some stores may be able to offer that you prepay the tariffs by them. But yeah, I'm not sure. I would have to potentially check maybe with Etsy how they would do it. But I don't have any good agreements with shipping providers being able to provide it for cheaper shipping. Let's see. That's 2, 3, 3, 3. That is this last row with threes. So that means at the very end of this row, we will have an increase. I'm just stuck with the classic EU valued at taxes, which means, for example, if I buy yarns from Ice Yarns, I will have to pay 21%. Valued at taxes on top of the prices. If I buy from Pleta, I already have the end price with valued at taxes, but paid with the Dutch valued at tax. Same goes for Hobbii, etc. If I would buy yarn from the US and get it shipped, I would have to pay import tax plus the 21% valued at taxes, which is why I've not really been buying yarns in the US to get shipped over, because I am, yeah, I'm not keen on paying those taxes if I can get similar yarn here. Sometimes I've seen some US yarns by dealers here, and sometimes it's been possible to get. I did have a luck of the draw, but that's about a bit more than a year ago, 2 years ago maybe. There was a seller on the Facebook marketplace who had a lot of current Simply Soft, so I got that added to my stash. And of course, there have been people who's been gifting me yarns from the US. So I had a gifted package also a while ago where I have some yarns laying in as well. And I found a store that may carry some of the Lion brand yarns, so I am considering if I should get some. If they still have them next time that I will be ordering yarn with them, which I don't know when will be, but time will show. Lisa says, I'm getting a pack of 10 balls of mystery color sock yarn and 10 mystery colors of Ariquania Huasaco Kelt dried cotton. I have to pay tax on the USA yarn, but not extra tariffs. Okay. Yeah. Taxes. Taxes, taxes, taxes. Also, they haven't said anything about gifts yet, and I just don't know if if and how that would all go around with one another. But try imagine winning a giveaway of yarn being shipped from Europe, and you then get asked to pay tariffs for it. That sucks. I personally don't really buy a lot of stuff from the States, but our business does. Yep, can imagine. So my business, next to crochet and next to my job, but I have a small company. I get my main materials from the US. So I bought a big nasty order back in March, end of February, beginning of March, because, for say the least, because I had already heard rumors of those tariffs back then, and my thought was, if the US slams tariffs off in the EU, the EU is likely going to slam tariffs back on the US, so that's going to be more expensive for me to import. Apparently, the trade accord has become that um, the tariff, like that, we are accepting the imposed tariffs of 15%, but we won't get additional tariff on the US for now, that is. Which for us in the EU is a good thing getting American things, but it's not so good for American business getting, or American people for that matter, getting EU things. Which means that if you have a Hobbii order, if you want to get from Hobbii and you're in the US right now, don't wait too long getting your yarn because, well, the tariffs are imminent. In a couple of weeks, you will get to pay extra for your Hobbii order. Sad story, but a true story. And then I wonder if Hobbii might cull their business with the US, or if they think it's still worth it, depending on if they will help prepay the tariffs for the customers and whatnot. We will have to see. I have a couple of yarn deliveries coming Friday, so that worked out well. Nice. One's just a restock of neon worsted weight yarn, so there's my first crochet kit. Okay, from where, I'm curious. It's an interesting granny blanket starting as a mitred granny and then it transitions into rectangle. Okay. The tariffs are on specific things. Yeah, this is the tariffs for the EU and the US is also partially because that the US want to remove the de minimis. So usually Americans were able to import goods from outside of the States up to a value of $800, and everything below they wouldn't get taxed on. Now they will get taxed on everything. They're basically removing that. But given how often the administration in the US changes their opinion on things, there is still a chance that they may change the opinion on this, we hope. The kit is from Hirschner's. Nice, nice, nice. I only have I actually have two crochet kits. One is a long pending. And the other one I am working on, but it's also a long pending. That crochet kit is my Fleur mosaic shawl, not mosaic shawl, mosaic blanket. Fleur is laying over there in the corner, and I am afraid to say this week gotten further behind because there has just been other things that's taken my priority. And that is what it is. So either I'm gonna make a long big home run on it at some stage, or I'm just gonna accept that it's probably not gonna get finished before New Year's. A part of it is probably also as it has been growing, it's gotten a bit more tedious to work on. So eventually, sometimes with projects, I get to the stage where I just want to get them done. So it could be because it's been warm and it is going to have a few more warm days coming up that I will option again to not work on it and then do a bigger lump on it when the weather cools down. We will have to see. Lisa says, I'm always tempted to order the mill-end cakes from Hershnish, but I have so many cakes. I wouldn't say the same. I probably would order the Millens if I were in the US. But yes, I have too many cakes, or so many cakes I can relate to. And as you can see, I am making a dent into one right now. Plus that I didn't need to add the scraps to my scrap pile of the other project I made with other cake. So I'll actually be rather happy if this succeeds. That's also going to be nice for my yarn consumption. I am going to bring some smaller skeins with me to Denmark, and I am likely going to do bucket hats or summer hats or something like that for them, I think. So yeah, it would be so nice if I think getting the ultimate sacrifice done here in August is realistic. I'm only gone for 5 days, which is also like, I think the weather is gonna be okay in Denmark. So I'm not sure. So I'll probably just have somewhere I can easily work on it when I'm there. And something that I can easily pack down and travel with. This project is not something that I want to travel with because I pulled from the inside of the cake. I got their cotton cakes and they are so pretty. Need to figure out what I'm going to do with them. Shawls. Lisa says I'm using a Stanley cake right now, making a sizzler rectangle wrap. Yeah, I have a bunch of Stanley cakes too. And I've also inspired people to buy Stanley. The Pure Tea shawl was in a Stanley. And that, my friends, turned out gorgeous. Gorgeous. Do I still have that? I do. Here we go. That is in a Stanley cake. And it's a slightly bit thicker than this because I worked it up in a 3.75mm crochet hook. This is in a Stanley Muffin Mini Luxe. So it's 90% acrylic at 10% Lurex. Yep, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Loved it. Was nice shawl to work on. Also, probably not the last time I made this shawl. I don't think so. Revenant says I'm working on 2 blankets at the moment and some quick projects here and there, and that are plate cleansers, but I'm using up minimum 2 skeins of yarn a week. Yeah, well, with these cakes, I can't get to the 2 skeins of yarn a week. It kind of depends on how big the skeins are and how thick the weight is, etc. Right? But with the hat I'm knitting, once that's finished, I've used up 3 skeins because I'm triple holding them, triple stranding it. And I have to say, it's really looking so gorgeous, and I am really getting closer to being finished. I'm just gonna insert a stitch marker because now when we're talking about it, I gotta show it. Megan says, I ordered the same cake from Stanley because of your shawl. Well, you're more than welcome. I do inspire people. Or I'm a yarn enabler. But Lisa says, yeah, I'm finally getting my spinning wheel next month. Interesting. So you're gonna spin your own yarn. Or you're also gonna use old yarns and fiber scrap them together to create new respun yarns. Curious to hear. I was thinking of that at some stage, and then I'm like, no, Stina, no, Stina. It's a great idea, but no, Stina, because I just have so many things to do and so many things I do that it's not a good idea for me to add extra stuff to do. Megan says, ordered the same cake from Stanley because of my shawl. Yes. And Revenant, the other blanket, my Halloween blanket, using Hirschner's, which is Brio yarn, doing a spiked granny blanket where I have 2 skeins on it with 7 or more to go, 480 meters per skein. Coolios. And a Premier Puzzle Moss stitch blanket with a 9mm hook and 10 skeins deep. Have 5 more to go, but the moss stitch gets a bit dull. Yeah, well, I can imagine when it's the same over and over and over again, eventually you just kind of want to get done with it. I have the same feeling sometimes. It's been fun. Need to run. Take care, Revenant. It was absolutely wonderful to hang around with you. As I said, I am working on this knit beanie, and it's just plain ribbed knit. I absolutely adore these colors. It's such a nice color, which is basically I'm holding these 3 yarns together, and I have one solid white, then I have one solid like latte color, and one that is constantly changing, so that is variegated. And this is how we're looking so far. And we are not all there yet. I want to get it to, I think it's 11 and a half inches, and we are around like 9 or so right now. 9 and a half. So we have 2 more inches to go, and then I need to close it off. And it's gonna be one of these, where you can fold up the brim. And I'm using my Cubics knitting needles, and I have to say I'm rather enjoying those. But that is the current progress of my chunky 3-stranded rib knit, and I really like how these colors. And honestly, on this webcam, which is what you're seeing right now in the stream, it's not showing up as nicely as in real life. Here, maybe a little, but generally, real life is so much nicer. I really do enjoy them. Lisa says, I'm going to try to spin yarn. Was given an entire raw fleece, and my hubby bought me a color pack of merino fiber. I also got merino bump a while back. Okay. I need my first pair of socks. I finished yesterday. Yay! I do completely sock knitting. I let my mom do. I don't have the patience to knit with sock with all those needles I need to keep track of, etc. Maybe when I get older. Maybe. And this is one of the reasons that no matter what happens, she has to survive this, because she needs to teach me to knit socks in like 10 years, at least. But worst case scenario, my auntie also knits socks, so I could, I guess, ask her for help. But I'd rather have my mom teaching me, because, well, there is something about that. Honing my skills, once learned by my mom. So we need to increase here in the tip. I had so much fun knitting the socks. That's cool. Did you do them on circular needles, or did you do it with the 4 or 5 loose knitting needles, like double tip needles? What did you end up optioning for? I think the reason, like, I've tried once attempting the sock knitting bit, and I failed. And I think the reason I failed is that I optioned for too heavy needles compared to everything. Used 5 double pointed needles, yeah. So the classic way. Did you use aluminiums or bamboo, or what kind of like material are your double pointed needles made of? I bought a set. I bought a pack of a bunch of double pointed needles in bamboo, and they're nice and light. So I may option to try with those. I also know that the Knit Pro J'adores, which is basically like the cubic needles that I'm using to knit this beanie with, they also come in double pointed. So I've been considering maybe putting those on my wish list, but it's not like set in stone. I think I'd rather just want the circular ones as a start, and I still need to check with them if all of their wires fit any of their systems, because if they do, that would be awesome. Because the standard set you get with the J'adores are not short enough for the purpose of knitting these hats, like what I'm doing right now. Is a very short wire. They are anodized aluminium, and they aren't very slippery like normal aluminium. They're Knit Pro Sing set. I got them on a good sale. Yeah, I've been looking at the Knit Pro Sing, and they look really nice too. I know my mom has carbon carbon needles, and I think they might be Knit Pro too. Now I'm curious. But yeah, so I got some of these in bamboo, which I'm likely gonna try to use for closing off the beanie with when I get there. I have this little dream that it's gonna be easier for me doing it like that. It may not be, but we will see. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I do think, I don't know if they have them. I don't know if they have. I do know they have the Sings also at Hobbies. Also bigger set. But I don't think they have the carbon ones. I do know they have the jet doors. I just don't want to pay the Hobbii price for them. So a little bit like the Symphony-ish, and yet not completely. Yeah, carbons, interchangeable knitting set, but they're like expensive as I don't know what. Let me pop over to the shopping window. Ta-ta! Here we have the carbon dyes one. Carbons. I do believe she has something similar, but in double pointed ones for sock needles. This is interchangeable ones, but I believe she has these in double pointed. They look very much like it. But crickets, $220 dollars, similar in euros. It's like 200 euros. No way. We'll go to double pointed needles to see. Yeah, here you have them. But she has like a set of them. So like a pack with multiple. And here they come in various thicknesses. But they only go up to like 5.5 millimeter. Then either in 15 centimeter or 20 centimeter length. But she did have like a set where the ones I'm considering are these, the Jador Cubics. I'd love to get these. I think. Like wish listed probably for Christmas, maybe. With the teeny needles needed for socks, I'd be scared of snapping a bamboo needle. Yeah, I can also understand that. They need to be light for sure, because if it's too heavy, it's also pulls in yarn and it's more difficult to sit with. So the real challenge is finding, I guess, the right ones. And I wouldn't buy my knit pros at Hobbies. I think I would probably get them off at a different site, offering them for a better discount. Like the prices, I can get knit pros on Amazon for cheaper with free shipping than I can get buy them at Hobbies. And yeah, I would get points buying them at Hobbies, but those points is not that much, to be honest, of a difference to make up for the actual extra you would pay. Hobbii doesn't have the sink set I got. I have 5 needles per size and 6 sizes in my set. There's also Linda Hobbii has also quite assortment of knitting needles. As I said, I am considering if I should add those to my wish list or not, because I am going to Denmark for Christmas, which means that I need a wish list for my Danish family, and I genuinely don't know what to wish for. I should spend some time looking at stuff when I'm in Denmark. Being like, that would be nice, or that would be nice. I've been drinking way too little in this stream. So this is me reminding you guys to take a sip if you haven't done it yet. And then I have this idea. So I fear I have this idea for a design, but I do fear a little bit that I'll end up buying yarn to test it out. Also because the week after I get home from Denmark, I have an appointment at the doctors, at the specialists, and they will. That's in the city, basically. So I'll probably pop by a yarn store on the way home. And have a look. Anywho, we are back at the shells, and it's the last like 11 shells, and then we'll turn around, and it's time for the increase because this is like the 4th row. Lindy Hobby has a set I got. Their prices also seem much more reasonable. Yes, generally their prices do seem more reasonable. Linda Hobby is actually also a Danish store. And I've had quite some yarns from there. And they were the ones tempting me to almost buy yarns a week ago. And I managed to get myself not to buy a yarn. It was on the inch. But I decided that I wasn't allowed. Because I do have all the ideas, but I didn't find it was necessary. Because I had plenty of other things I could do with the yarns I had. And all in the power of decreasing my stash. It went to not buying yarn. I'm putting it pending. Pending as in we will have to see. And in fact, we'll have to generate some revenue that pays for that yarn. Unless I choose to sell off some of my current stash. Which I do have some. I do have some like 100% wool, which would be awesome for felting. And I don't know what I want to knit with it. So it's not yarn that's talking to me, as in, please knit me up. So I'm either gonna give it away or I'm maybe going to see if I can sell it and get some cash back. That would be nice. If my kits weren't begging for socks, I wouldn't have ordered yarn. I forgot. How many kits do you have again? Is it? You do have 2, because kits is multiple, but I have the idea you have more than 2. My mom has a decent stash of shock yarn, and honestly, the last socks my mom made for me was in she had gotten a donation of yarn from, I guess, an older woman that passed away or whatever, and in the top box of that was some lovely variegated yarns for socks. And I looked at my mom saying, if you don't know what to use this yarn for, you could always knit me a pair of socks, but I'm first going to use them this winter because I got them this summer and it's too warm for socks right now. but they're going to be great for winter. I have three. Two have partners and one have a two have partners and I have one grandbaby. So 3 children, 2 children-in-laws, and a grandchild. The grandchild I knew. I remember you telling that. No kids. Plenty of friends with kids. Or cousins, sisters, brothers. But so I have nieces and nephews. And I also won't get children, which is a choice I've made. And it's also a choice that my partner made. The sense of we both have the same beliefs, and not sure if I feel sad about it, but I'm fine with it. But I'm not making socks for the baby. Well, for when they grow a bit, maybe. You could crochet small baby shoes. That's personally something I've considered at some stage, but not gotten around it. Because I think it could be cute. But as I said, not done it. Find the right pattern, find the right yarn, and do it is many, many things that needs to harmonize. So we are getting there, almost at the end of this row, which means that we gotta prepare for an increase. I designed and made the baby a Tunisian crochet poncho. Oh, that sounds nice. I didn't know you did small designs too. I've made him several blankets and toys. Yep, the classic. I gifted a friend who gave birth a year and a half ago now. Almost 2 years ago. My goodness, time flies. I gifted them a baby blanket. And I know the kid loves it still as of today. So that's a nice thing to know. So it still goes with them, even though it's way too small now, obviously, for the child. Part of that is to do with the parents being long. Like, she's taller than me, and her partner is probably like 2 meters or close to. So this child or baby quickly outgrew the blanket. But yeah, I made it, and I'm happy I made it. And that wasn't originally the plan for the blanket, but it's one of those things that is in your stash, and eventually, this person where it will be the perfect gift. And that's kind of what happened. So we are increasing. which makes that we now have 4 double crochets of each side of the shawl. And height-wise, I'm pretty average of height, right? I'm like 170-ish. His favorite blanket is the temperature blanket I made for him. It was the temperature of the first year of his life. I started the day he was born and finished on his first birthday. Oh, that's cute. That's a gorgeous idea. So you're gonna make one for every year after then, or are you gonna be like, okay, when he turns 18, it would make logic sense to make a new one? Just curious of your thoughts. Be like, this is how much the weather changed while you were a child. Oh, heck no. Yeah, temperature blankets are a lot of work. I am absolutely in awe of those who makes them. Um, Especially seeing how much work I now do with the mosaic. Of course, mosaic does take longer time, but still. Um, no, I I do really like how Fleur is looking. Would I make more mosaic blankets in the future? Maybe, but not anytime soon. Yeah, that's my say. Maybe when he's 18, like, I think it could be fun to have a comparison blanket when he turns 18. Like, the question is if you want to do it from when he's 17 until he turns 18, or if you want to do it from when he turns 18 until he gets, like, just to compare. Or you want to make it for the 21st birthday. So you'll start on his 20th birthday and then complete on his 21st, because that would be 2 centuries, right? Century is not 100 years, it's 10 years. Jesus. Decade? 2 decades. Yeah, decades. Centuries is much more. Centuries is 200 years, sorry. That would be 2 decades. And, that would be kind of cool to say, see, this is a difference in the 2 blankets. And being this, decade later, if that makes sense. I think that could be cool. Oh, that was a wrong stitch. But yeah, it's still commitment. And can you find similar colors? But it could be cool to see if the weather is much different in 2 decades from now, if that makes sense. I have a lot of time to think about it. You just turned 1 in March of this year. Oh, definitely do. You almost have 2 decades to think about it as well. To consider if you really want to, or to gather the feelingness or need, or the motivation is probably also a word in this case. Like, it's like me, I get these great ideas and then I realize how long it takes to complete them, especially like, I feel maybe eventually I will have a week where I just only work on Fleur, more or less, and it's gonna be like, ta-ta, done. Um, and that's probably first when it gets a bit colder. Realistically, um, we are not ready. It's too warm. And it just takes up so much space. Like, I can have nothing else to do working on Fleur. I will need um, I'll need a really good TV show to look at. binge watching something. When we get there. My goodness. My stomach is also telling me that we are getting closer to dinner time, which is true. It's 4:45. Lisa says, I was realistic when I started. I documented the temperature every day, but only worked on the blanket 1 day a week. Yeah, I can understand. So, did you also do like highs and lows, or did you do an average, or how did you approach it? You just did the highs. Okay, cool. Part of me would want to make one day. That could be cool. Like, oh, I would have to make two if I did. Like, I would have to make one for Denmark, one for the Netherlands. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is when I'm retired and have nothing else to do in a cold winter day. So, in 30 years from now, that I could see myself do. But today, not a chance. And I would probably do it like either wavy or chevron styled, but you did it in Tunisian, simple stitch. Each day was one pass instead of an entire row of two passes. Okay. I'd love to see the picture of that, actually. Just not right now, but just anytime when you have a chance if you didn't take one. I am curious how it looks. I've never done Tunisian. I did want to learn it. But it is not on the top of my priority list. We are almost through this side of the increases. But I won't reach to finish this row. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a color change here, which means that we go from 2 light blues and 2 medium blues into 3 medium blues and just 1 light blue. I'll get my daughter to send me a pic. I seem to have lost it when I got a new phone. Oh, that's sad. But yeah, cool. And I said, no rush. Just, it'd be cool to see. Are they living far from you or within reasonable travel distance? Because I will totally admit, I wish that I lived slightly ever closer to Denmark these days. You know, for many years, I've not really thought about it, but as my mom has gotten ill, um, I definitely have been thinking more about it. So far, it is still an uphill battle, but it does genuinely seem that it's been a positive progress. Oh, she lives 10 minutes from you. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Yeah, that's not the case with me and my mom or my parents. I do think to some extent I might be happy not living too close to them because I think my dad, he tends to get bored and he would then just come and visit randomly, spontaneously. And I'm not so sure if I would appreciate that all of the time. Um, well, that's simply because he's bored. Um, but it would be nice to still have them so close that you could just, pop over for dinner or a cup of coffee or whatever you wanted to. Let's say 20 minutes drive would also be fine. Um, but that's not really going to happen unless I move to Denmark, which I also don't see happening because of a few things. Of course, I love my partner. We live fine and happily here in the Netherlands. 2, I will need a job. And I will need a place to live. Um, I could most definitely live with my parents the first few weeks, but generally, I'd go crazy. So I would need something quickly, which means I would also quickly need a job. And Denmark is expensive. So I'd need to consider where I would want to live and yeah, lots of things basically. So I'm a happy camper where I am currently. Oh, my parents have in-law are my neighbors and my brother-in-law lives across the street. Oh my goodness. Um, my mom-in-law moved closer, but luckily nothing has changed in how often we see one another. By that said, I really adore and love my mom-in-law. She's a wonderful person, but daily would be too much. Um, that would be too much for me, I think. Um, she's a wonderful person. I did spend every day with her for 4 weeks when we went to New Zealand 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. My goodness, 2.5 years ago already. Um, That's crazy how time has been flying. So if I would end up going back down under, I would probably bring gifts in the sense of crocheted items, I could imagine. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's just too darn expensive. When we built our new house, my daughter made it very clear to us that she's buying this house. Ah, yeah, she wants to move closer to grandparents and uncle and so on. Kind of all gets like a family feeling, doesn't it? In Germany, houses are often so big that you live two generations in the same house. So, like either on the on the first floor or the basement, depending on the house. You'll have your children and the parents on the more convenient floor, and then you know, so there's plenty of room in these houses to have two generations, which I think it's a gorgeous thing. Because you always have grandparents around if you need to have a babysitter or anything like that for your kids. Um, so I think it's all a really, really nice thing um, to have big homes like that. Um, and I know that my mom really appreciated the fact that my grandparents were living really close, like they were 2 kilometers away. So it was like, what, no, 10 minutes with a car, not even. And it was on the road to her work. So if I was sick as a child, she would bring me to my grandparents, who would look after me. So she did not have to call in sick at work because of her child being sick. And my mom, or great grandmother, was always home. It was like a small farm. There was nothing better than being with my grandparents, basically. Also because my grandmother will always like bake or we'll play cards, or we would like do cozy stuff together. And if I wanted to be outside, obviously not when I was sick, it was my granddad, and there was lots of things to do there as well. It was a farm. There was always something to do. It was extremely difficult to get bored. Um, chickens, ducks, geese, cats, a single dog, horses, very important. I was a horse girl back then. So it was amazing to be there, of course, because those horses. This is a highly desirable area. When houses go for sale here, they sell within a week. Well, it's easy. Don't put it on the public market. If your daughter wants to buy yours, then she can sell hers. That's still pretty reasonably desirable within 10 minutes drive, I would assume. And your daughters get her wish and everybody is happy. You do might want to get it assessed so nobody feels that is getting a better deal than the others, but for matter of speaking. Right now, also houses here, I don't say they sell within a week, but within a month. If it's more expensive and they're somewhat cheaper, go in 2 to 3 weeks. Or if it's very, very expensive, it takes maybe 1 to 2 months. But um, it it's clear that that the market is still quite hungry because we are still in a situation where people need to bid more than a house is worth, and we are talking about needing to upbid upwards 30,000-40,000 euros for a house that's not that big at all, actually, in fact, with a tiny garden. So there's a massive need for housing in the Netherlands. They can't build them fast enough also. This is insane growth in the area right now. It's, of course, it's close to the town, but kind of rural, so large properties. This one is 2 acres. Yeah, large properties is nice because it gives you room to have at least, like, you can have a coop with chickens and so on. I don't think we are rural enough for me to say, oh, it could be cool with backyard chickens. I'd like backyard chickens, but I would have wanted a garden that's probably twice the size of what we have. I've also been honest with my partner, saying if we ever have the money one day, I'd probably want to move to get something with more space around us, but and maybe also an extra guest room. But it's not something that I need. It's just more like I wouldn't mind if the right comes, etc. But the money also needs to be there. And right now it definitely isn't. I'm not one of those lucky ones that bought Tesla stock X years ago and then suddenly 3,000 as much as what's worth or whatever. Unfortunately, I wish, but I'm not one of those lucky ones. Also, housing crisis in Canada. I think it's a global thing. Lots of people here have chickens. Makes sense, especially if you're a little bit more rural. As I said, I'd love to have like a little. I don't need many. Like, let's say 4 to 5 chickens would be cool, and a rooster in case one of them wants to lay eggs and have small chickens, baby chickens. So it wouldn't be chickens; it would be hens. 4 to 5 hens. Then if one of the hens would go, not sure what that's called when they want to lay on the eggs, but I don't know what's called in Danish. Like, I think that would be cool. But I also know that we don't have the spacing for it, so it's not gonna happen. That's just too much extra shizzle. So we are at the increases here, but the thing is, it has passed 5 p.m., which means that it's slowly getting time for me to fix dinner. So what I probably should be doing is concluding that if I want to get that done on time, I'm not going to finish the row. But we did get some decent work done. Let's see what should we do. Should pop back to the other cam. Pop back up and see my pretty face. Ta-ta! Yeah, I know. Lisa says only need a rooster if you want to hatch eggs. If you just want to eat them, no rooster is needed. I know that. And I could be tempted to, at some stage, wanting to hatch if I had my own chickens, but I do not. So end of this show for. I wouldn't go ahead and say for today. It's plausible for today. Depends my mood. But I'm probably gonna see if I can finish the knit beanie later if I have time. But more importantly, I'm going to block the GingerTea Cowl after getting back home from the fitness center today. Tomorrow, hopefully, gonna craft some buttons so we can sew them in, and we have a finished result for Friday's yarn talk video. Wouldn't that be awesome if I can reach that? That is my small hope and goal. If I'll succeed, time will have to show. Yeah. On Friday, I'll be back with my yarn talk video. Hallelujah. On Sunday, I'll be traveling to Denmark, which means that next week I will not be live. Normally, I would have been live Monday and Wednesday next week, and I would also have a yarn talk video Friday, but that is not going to happen this time around because on Friday I'll be traveling back home. And then I'll be back next week. Well, I'll be back on Friday with a yarn talk video, and if everything goes well, I'll be back with more info for you next week if I'll succeed time-wise on everything else that's going on and what my plans are. And else, I guess I will be seeing you in 2 weeks' time for the next live, because that will then be on, let's say, Wednesday 20th, if everything goes well. We'll have to see. I'm probably by then still working on the Ultimate Sacrifice shawl, depending on how things go and depending on other things here in the agenda. Or else we'll work on something new together. I'm going to say thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was a wonderful time. I had a great time. If you're watching so far and you've watched it from the beginning and all the way to the end, thank you so much for your kind support. It warms my heart. I hope you had a great time crafting and hanging out with us all. And from here on out, take care and happy crafting. Until see you again. Bye.